Aro, Maman. Maman. Aro, Maman. Otigbo, Maman. Why are you here? His Eminence, the Eze Aro Coronation in Eze, His Eminence. Ndị Ogbonnaya, the President General of Ugwu Arochukwu, President General of the Women's Wing, the Heart Delegation, the Chairman of the National Coronation Celebration Council, my good friend, Professor Ugwu, Professor Orji Ogbonnaya, another scholar, a very good friend in the high table, Massive Amadini, a never good friend, also on the high table, Professor Vice Chancellor of the Ugwu State University, Robin Ugwu is representing the English professor that spoke in Igbo. Eminent our sons and daughters, so many to mention that I particularly pay respect due on the subject matter we're discussing today to Professor Convergence, Emeritus Professor of History and one of our surviving founding fathers. It deserves a round of applause. All the members of our club that are here, prominent sons and daughters, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for the very elaborate discussion, very elaborate introduction that has been made. And I, with humility, thank my brother Arochukwu for the able way he articulated, ascribed certain achievements to me. And I do appreciate this with all humility. This lecture is anything but a journey into our history. I don't have that confidence, and the people that can really delve into our history, many of them are here. Professor Convergence is one of them. The lecture is everything but an attempt to trace the genealogy of Arochukwu, the process of his ascendancy. Again, I don't have that competence. I believe that historians and scholars of ancient Aro history will do a better job than me in these areas. This lecture is therefore about the middle of Eze Aro tradition, the unfolding digital age, and the challenges of convergence. How will tradition, digital age, and all unfolding ideas that are being come together and meet at a point? And to examine these issues, I plead with you to take a journey with me to islands where we will find ideas, exposure, case studies, and some lessons we can learn. In this journey, we will seek to find key traditional institutions and how they are adapted to these concepts and dynamics of societal transformation to shape their existence and remain resilient, relevant over the years, especially in today's knowledge age, driven by innovation, information and communication technology. I was in Geneva, in Switzerland, from the 16th to the 25th of this month, on official engagement, when I began to receive multiple phone calls, and I was apprehensive if anything had gone. And these calls keep coming at the peak of my meetings. And they were coming from people I could hardly ignore their calls. Because these people don't call me except there is something important. I stepped outside, took some of the calls, and the message was the same. The Eze Aro Coronation, the Eze Aro Coronation Council has elected to deliver the coronation lecture on the Eze Aro's coronation celebration event. And you are free to speak on any topic of your choice. We are calling to seek your confirmation and acceptance of the sermon. That was the message. I am therefore greatly honored, immensely grateful to the Council for the opportunity to deliver this important public lecture as part of activities marking the coronation of Eze Aro Arochukwu, good friend, brother, His Eminence, Dr. Arochukwu Orji. I'm very particularly thankful to the committee for giving me an open check on what to speak on. Mr. Chairman, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, I have chosen to speak on an area of my immense passion that focuses on the throne of the Eze Aro, the rich tradition of our kingdom, Arochukwu, and the rapidly unfolding digital age that has changed humanity in a manner that no one ever imagined in the current decades. The importance of this lecture has also arisen because the Eze Aro throne and our tradition are currently faced with challenges associated with digital age, which have changed or is far changing the way we think, the way we live, the way we walk, the way we speak, the way we do business, and most especially the way we communicate and relate with people around us. ICT have changed all of that. These changes are moving with the speed of light as we speak, and no one can ignore these changes. My dear brothers and sisters, Assembly Chairman, in the midst of this rapid changing world, driven by knowledge, information and communication technology, which neither Arochukwu nor any other established kingdom is in a position to stop, resist, avoid or isolate itself from. Even in the midst of our people's strong reverence to the throne and our tradition, some important questions have arisen. Is the Eze Aro throne ready and aligned with the challenges of the digital age as we speak today? If yes, how? If no, how do we reposition the Eze Aro throne and the palace to preserve our tradition and remain relevant in today's digital age? Do we have the requisite skills in our kingdom, knowledge, resources required to do all this? What are the risks involved? What are the opportunities? Are they any? How do we minimize these risks and maximize the opportunities? Are there available examples, case studies that we could draw lessons from? What are the damages used in search of convergence between agitation for reforms and advocacy for things to remain the same in status quo the way they are? What are possible next steps that will guide any of such steps, such efforts? The answers to these questions will underline the importance of this lecture and its focus on the Eze Aro tradition, digital age, and the challenges of convergence. Mr. Chairman, Your Royal Highnesses, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, contemporary body of knowledge and events in human history seem to agree that any institution that resists dynamics of change, changes of society, or fails to innovate would either lose relevance, diminish, or perish. And these institutions include, but not limited to, political institutions, religious institutions, business institutions, public or private sector institutions, or of course traditional institutions that we are discussing today, no matter how the depth or the strength of its historical origin. My dear brothers and sisters of our descent and invited guests, Arochukwu Kingdom, our ancestral home, reputed to be cradle of people's civilization, is today polarized by the debate over Eze Aro, tradition, digital age, and the challenges of convergence. The debate has become so intense between our oral tradition and evidence-based knowledge. It is a debate between reform or regression, a debate between ancient or modern, stagnation or movement. It's a debate between facts and fiction, dreams and reality, justice for the community versus individual claims of injustice, skepticism and doubt over certainty, a debate over yesterday, a debate over today, a debate over tomorrow. It is quite interesting to note that these debates cut across between the Aro at home, the Aro in the diaspora, those in the public and private sectors, the youth, students, children, women, Christians and traditionalists, the poor and the rich, educated and non-educated. Everyone in this kingdom has a say, has an idea on how digital age can converge and be accommodated to achieve a handshake across generations for the overall survival of this kingdom. Mr. Chairman, Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this lecture is another opportunity to deepen the discussion, examine and explore the intricate relationship between tradition and modernity, particularly how traditional institutions can successfully explore and exploit the potential benefits of modern civilization to reposition itself with the demands of today's digital age. It's also a platform to discuss the risks and opportunities we face as a community and traditional kingdom under threat of modernization. Now, let's look at categories of traditional institutions and some examples which are complex ones. Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of this lecture, I have identified 10 categories of traditional institutions that may be relevant to our discussion. These categories were identified based on distinctiveness, unique roles, cultural nature, and character of their kingdoms. The respective culture of the case studies became relevant to this discussion in view of the fact of how these various kingdoms have adapted to modernity, civilization, and digital age without losing their relevance across generations. The first are institutions that represent both the throne, the state, the government, and has apparatus of institutional governance. Traditional rulers in this category are not only custodians of the culture, customs, and traditions of their people, but have political authority of the state in their custody. This category assumes both traditional and political authority in one institution and reigns and rules over the people and the state, including in day-to-day political activities and governance. You find this common in most parts of the Arab world, particularly in the Middle East, such as Kuwait, Qatar, Morocco, UAE, Bahrain, Brunei, Saudi Arabia, and the whole of the Gulf region. Now, we look at the particular case of Kingdom of Kuwait. Kuwait is an oil-rich region in the Gulf of the Middle East. Kuwait is a monarchy and an emirate founded in 1752. The Emir of Kuwait, just like Eze Aro, is hereditary monarch from the El Shaddad family, ruling family. The Emir of Kuwait appoints the Prime Minister, who must also come from the royal family. Other government institutions such as judiciary, police, and financial institutions are governed under the rulership of the Emir is the law, the rules everything. The king who rules, reigns, and takes power and authority in the kingdom. Nobody questions him. Comparatively, the only major similarity between the kingdom of Kuwait and the kingdom of Arochukwu is that both kingdoms are hereditary. But the case of Kuwait is equally important here because though through continuous adherence to institutional and cultural reforms, Kuwait today is the richest traditional kingdom in the world. Kuwait is today the richest traditional kingdom in the world. while gross national currency, the dinar, is among top 3 strongest and highest value currencies globally, which at a kingdom holds 10% of the global GDP. 10% of the world's total oil reserve. I work in that sector. I've been to Kuwait several times. How things happen there, I hope it will happen here. Oil contributes to nearly 50% of the country's GDP and 90% of their total exports. Special emphasis at that kingdom is on citizens' welfare. Studies in Arab history have identified continuous reforms with special attention on citizens' welfare as the basis for sustaining power in Kuwait, basis for sustaining authority and the throne, even in various kingdoms that are surrounding Kuwait within the Gulf region. However, even at that, irrespective of sufficient affluent economic growth and citizens' comfort in that kingdom, increasing public agitation for reforms that allow openness, popular participation, transparency, wider civic space and participation, it focuses on deeper interrogation of the status quo still persists. For instance, on May 15 this year, the Kuwait news agency quoted the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Rishad, as announcing to the world that we are in a new phase of reforms and serious actions must be taken right now. All the ministers must accelerate the implementation of long-awaited strategic projects, address village fires and work on infrastructure projects, develop healthcare, education, and so on, and take into account the need for transparency to preserve public funds. However, scholars of Arab history have continued to argue that the people's interest in this reform that target the traditional institution that grants supreme authority to the Emir of Kuwait and the ruling class is the major problem. The people want to get involved, not just comfort. The people want to be recognized. The underlying factor for the agitation is the search for openness, inclusivity, and popular participation. Although it is easier to argue that the type of traditional institution in Kuwait is more common in Nigeria, though similar and not exactly the same with the Arochukwu traditional institutions. The point I'm making here is that reforms are necessary to sustain authority, citizen support, and participation in any leadership arrangement with ascendancy to the highest authority in the land are made exclusive for the privileged few and not open to all. The second category is the institution and the system that appears to be bigger and above the state. When I mean the state here, I mean government. In this category are traditional authorities that rely solely on supreme religious authority as legitimate sources of power. Traditional rulers that fall within this category are basically distant from political institutions. This is the case in the traditional institutional system that exists in Japan, another very robust economy. Thailand, among others, largely in Asia. These categories of traditional institutions symbolize the secular state here, symbolizes where traditional rulers are only in government when they are not in power. Although they have access to government, they exercise very little or no political control. They represent symbols of national unity and catalysts for civic engagement. These kinds of traditional institutional leadership are common. This type of traditional leadership are common in a situation where they represent the symbols of national unity and catalysts for civic engagements. You find them in Northern Europe, Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. One striking feature of this category is that their leadership is people-oriented, progressive, and heavily welfare sensitive in a way that reforms are systematically part of the leadership process. We are coming nearer home, now England, the British monarchy. The third category I'm referring to here is the British traditional institution, the English traditional institution, that combines the features of the area models and crime. In the British system, the traditional institution is the head of government, is the head of the Church of England, and also is the custodian and culture of the British people. The British tradition is reputed as being one of the oldest and most enduring, influential, dignified, and organized in modern day history. As institutionalized historical agent and host, the British monarchy is able to remain relevant, retain power, enduring as a result of its dynamism in adjusting constantly to unfolding changes in contemporary society through quiet and systematic reforms. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, contemporary body of knowledge in literature of British history, recording various forms of historical events that triggered reforms in aspects of the character, culture, and nomenclature of the British monarchy. These reforms were in response to their alignment with changes in society, responsive to demands and aspirations of British people, or both. An example of the open bold reforms carried out by Queen Victoria, who ascended the throne as the Queen of England in 1837. It's relevant to our discussion. At the time of her reign, one major issue of concern to the people was the labor and the job crisis brought about by the Industrial Revolution. Besides, the traditional leadership was perceived as being too involved, far away from the people, and in no position to understand citizens' frustration. The traditional leadership under Queen Victoria knew exactly what was going on, initiated major reforms that addressed this and repositioned the monarchy and reconnected the traditional institution to the people. She instituted the culture of neutrality in politics by distancing the monarchy from active partisan politics and limiting the monarchy to ceremonial duties. In this way, the British monarchy continued to get itself reformed and then respond to the citizens' frustration. Beyond Queen Victoria's era, the British traditional monarchy has continued to open itself to criticism, public opinion, and increasing public demand for reform. The signing into law of the Succession to Crown Act of 2013, the oldest monarchy in the world, bowed to public pressure in one of the most profound and courageous reforms. The Succession Law of 2013 ended the system of only males can ascend the throne. To ascend to the throne in case of any matter, before then, only male children can ascend the throne. The new legislation driven by reforms of the institution also removed the disqualification of the person who married the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic who married from the Roman Catholic Church. Before, if you marry a Roman Catholic, you cannot be either King or Queen of England. That has been removed. The new reforms still open opportunities, eliminated religious prejudice, stopped discrimination, promoted gender equality, and ensured that the succession process reflected the egalitarian principles of modern British society. The impulse of these groundbreaking reforms, introduced just 11 years ago, gave the British monarchy a new image, strengthened its reputation, and rebuilt very strongly its confidence trust in the institution as an institution that is open and continuously evolving to meet the dynamics of society. Besides, these reforms modernize the monarchy, allowing it to with modern contemporary values of the society, such as gender equality and religious tolerance. Scholars of British history have argued that current radical behavior of some members of the royal family, notably Prince Harry, who relinquished his royal duties and privileges and relocated to the United States, represented a strong protest against the traditional monarchy. Over what analysts perceive as what the royal family did or refused to do when his mother, Prince Diana, died in a massive motor accident, and his father quickly moved and married Queen Camilla. Prince Harry's current strained relationship with his royal family can also be described as another case study of a protest of the interplay between the throne, tradition, digital age, and challenges of convergence. In Japan, another established rulership and existing legislation called the Imperial Household Law, a new law that is called Imperial Household Law, which allows only the male gender exclusive rights and opportunity to ascend the throne. That law is now a subject of public debate and agitation for reforms, resulting in succession crisis in that kingdom, because there are no men in that kingdom, men are few, and the vacuum of that throne has existed over 20 years. The men there are few, men look after the fact, they don't have men. So the women are saying, can't we take over? In Saudi Arabia, in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the current crown has introduced, the current crown prince has introduced a set of comprehensive reforms, socio-political and economic reforms that include succession plan as a major component of the ongoing reforms. The consolidation of power in the crown prince represents a shift towards a more centralized and potentially more stable succession planning, moving away from the age-long traditional complex and opaque process. The reforms in Saudi Arabia seek openness and align with modern economic and social reforms, such as allowing women to drive and the recognition of the linkage between modern-day traditional institutions, tourism, tradition, tourism and entertainment industry, and investment. These reforms are part of broader strategy to modernize the country, open Saudi Arabia for business while maintaining the monarchy central. Apparently, reforms seem to be paying off, as Saudi Arabia has witnessed remarkable growth in tourism and entertainment, and in recent years, an obvious example of rapid growth witnessed in sports. Most sporting talents are now heading to Saudi Arabia because the system keeps opening up. Now, we're back home. Let's look at traditional institutions in Nigeria. In Nigeria, as I try to put this story together, the absence of documented information and data constituted major obstacles to the possibility of adequately tracing, locating, and properly locating and situating how well-known established kingdoms, traditional and digital age have contended with challenges of convergence. In Africa, we unfortunately dwell more on oral tradition and hearsay than documented history. The popular traditional thrones and institutions with similar status, like the Eze Aro Coronation kingdom, the pre-colonial and many independent Nigeria, include but not limited to the throne of the Oba of Benin, the Ugwu of Commission, the Ugwu of Warri, the Oba of Calabar, the Tonti, the Convergence, the Ugwu of Ugwu. These have similar challenges to contend with clash of tradition, civilization, digital aid, and the challenges of convergence, shaping the future in a new democratic society. For instance, the history of the new kingdom reflects its resilience and adaptability through various periods of change, from the ancient origins to its current place within modern Nigeria. The case study of the Benin Kingdom and the reforms that integrated the Benin kingdom into modern state clearly defined traditional roles, resulting in the 20th century cultural revival of the ancient Benin Kingdom. Since independence, the Benin Kingdom has witnessed the surges of global interest in Benin bronzes and restored the significance of the Oba's role. Today, the Oba of Benin still holds a significant cultural and ceremonial role in Nigeria. The kingdom's history and art to the source has become a source of national pride. The Sokoto Caliphate. Apart from the ancient Benin Kingdom that appears stable under the constitutional monarchy of Oba Ugwu, who assumed the throne in 2016, the others included the Sokoto Caliphate, founded by the Islamic scholar Sheikh Osman Afodia in 1804, are also under perpetual fear as a result of threats of one form of challenge of instability or the other to contend with. It was quite shocking to me recently when I read in the media some talent under siege, and I quote, "Relations between the government of Sokoto State and traditional institutions are fast degenerating, with Governor Ahmed Ali granting a new law on the appointment of traditional rulers that seek to grant him absolute power to appoint and sack chiefs in the state. Governor Ahmed Ali has already had the proposed legislation approved by the State Executive Council for onward transmission to the State House of Assembly. In the same publication, a non-governmental organization known as Muslim Rights Concerns Group was quoted as alleging of the plan by the Sokoto State government to depose the Sultan. Governor Ali has denied the allegation while responding to a statement by Vice President Kashim Shettima, I'm still quoting, whose attention was drawn to the unfolding developments in Sokoto. Governor Ali wrote on Twitter, and I quote, Governor Ali of Sokoto State tells Vice President Kashim Shettima to always cross-check facts before commenting on sensitive national issues. Responding to Shettima's comment on the need to protect the Sultan of Sokoto through his spokesman Abubakar Bawa, the governor said Shettima should have contacted him to verify the news, which made rounds on the purported plan to depose the Sultan, Muhammad Salah Abubakar, before going public. Governor Ali said the fact of the matter is that there was never any attempt to sack the Sultan. End of quote. Despite the governor's denial, recent developments indicate that the state government is indeed working with the state assembly to introduce a legislation that will significantly diminish the long-standing power and influence of the Sultan. Events in Sokoto further substantiate the argument that time-hallowed traditional authority in an era of democracy, where it was recognized and adapt to dynamics and challenges of modern society. The challenge here is tradition, digital age, and the challenge of convergence. Now, the Kano Emirate. The sudden removal and banishment of the 14th Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, which happened openly, underlines the growing tensions surrounding stability of traditional institutions in Nigeria. The recent developments and current situation in Kano, where we have one emirate and two emirates, is scary. The Kano emirate tussle between blood relations of the same royal family is a very big concern to many who have looked at the Kano emirate tradition and culture with so much respect and reverence. As I put this lecture together, no Nigerian except the courts have any idea who is now the authentic Emir of Kano. The Oba of Calabar. In Calabar, the throne of the Oba of Calabar has been subjected to a series of instability arising from series of litigations up to the Supreme Court. On 20th November last year, the tussle over the Oba took the center stage at the Supreme Court. The fight took a new dimension as some members of the Juba Traditional Council, ETC, the palace of the Oba of Calabar, accused Governor Arochukwu led government of supporting illegality by supporting Edidon Epo Arochukwu the fifth as the Oba of Calabar. The rival card played by the chairman of the Human Traditional Council, His Royal Highness Tudor Eze Aro, cautioned the state government from embarking on an illegal action against the Supreme Court judgment. That throne is being under threat. Now, on the traditional institution. The respected throne of the Orji Ogbonnaya, Igwe Alfred Echebe, came under attack following Igwe's written response, apparently protesting the unilateral removal of some traditional rulers in the state by the governor, Professor Charles Ugwu, without consultation with the Orji, who is the chairman of Anambra State Council of Traditional Rulers. There were strong rumors of a great grand plan by the governor to remove the Orji and the chairman of council, and possibly the throne will be abolished. This rumor raised very high tension in the whole of Southeast region and across the country, because the Orji Ogbonnaya, in the current circumstance, is seen by the entire Igbo nation as the only remaining traditional institution that carries the Igbo identity in the national arena with grace, pride, and dignity. Therefore, attempts to demystify the Orji will be viewed as an attack to the dignity and pride of the Igbo as a people. On the 25th of June this year, the selection and installation of Afolabi Olaoye as the new chair of Convergence in Oyo State was nullified following series of litigation. One of the contenders to the stool, few weeks after Olaoye's selection by kingmakers and approved by the Oyo State government as the new chair of Convergence on 2nd September 2023, went to court. The stool had become vacant in December 2021 after the death of Orji Ogbonnaya, and reigned in Convergence, the chair of Convergence, for 48 years. Democracy and the crisis in traditional institutions. Mr. Chairman, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the traditional institution in our country at the moment is currently faced with complex challenges of attaining a convergence between the throne, tradition, and digital age, because we are in the age of knowledge, we are in the age of openness, we are in the age of transparency, we are in the age of accountability, and we are in a democratic society. The country's return to civil rule came with the expansion of civic space, press freedom, human rights, constitutional order, resulting in constant, very frequent public engagement on social political issues that constantly targets the way things are in status quo in citizens' agitation. This citizens' courage and freedom to question virtually everything, the past as basis for accepting and rejecting the present and projecting for the future, are on the increase. These agitations of the traditional institutions question virtually every aspect of traditional authority, including justification for military arrangement, the exclusion of certain classes of citizens, and the need for inclusion of everyone. In our settlements across Eastern Nigeria, the increasing agitations by those who claim to be natives and those described as settlers have resulted in violence, communal disturbances, displacement and social dislocations of iron in most of our settlements. Most traditional institutions are viewed as either authoritarian, oppressive, non-inclusive, or undemocratic. The citizens argue that the 1999 Constitution as amended assigned no roles to traditional institutions. Section 42, subsection 2 of the Constitution clearly established that no citizen of Nigeria will be subjected to any discrimination or deprivation merely by reason of the circumstances of his birth. The 2023 Economic Democracy Index is a global journal that I personally subscribe all the time, that analyzes political and traditional institutions across the world. Disclosed that out of 167 countries globally, only 108, which represented 64.6% countries sampled, are either full, flawed, or hybrid democratic regimes. The survey also identified 59 countries representing 34.4% of the nations covered and studied as authoritarian regimes. I'd like to drink water. As authoritarian regimes, the EDR report asserted that authoritarian regimes survive when political pluralism is either detected, restricted, or replaced by absolute monarchies or dictatorship, with rigid media control, legislative, restricted civic space, censorship, poor electoral processes, controlled judicial processes, and caged judicial systems. The ordinary citizens' agitation to closely link traditional institutions to undemocratic system of governance. Against this background, a close examination of various established traditional kingdoms in Nigeria shows that many, if not all, are faced with difficult challenges, of which even threaten their legitimacy and foundation of existence. Now, the Arochukwu Kingdom. Mr. Chairman, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in my contribution to the book, expected to be published as part of the coronation, The Making of Eze Aro by Professor Orji Ogbonnaya, a renowned scholar and emeritus professor of history, I made the point that reforms do not happen. They are caused, they are triggered. However, the known and unknown triggers of reforms are not the focus of this lecture. I won't dwell on that. But most reforms that seek to interrogate the status quo. Status quo in this case means the way things are. Most reforms that want to question the way things are. Most reforms that try to interrogate the status quo beyond tradition are all inevitable. But most times difficult choices. But they are driven by change, they are driven by time, they are driven by environment, they are driven by circumstances that will hardly be ignored by anyone. This includes economic, social, political, cultural, and dynamics of society that shape humanity, environment, and events. Currently, you hear all kinds of agitation, people are planning, protests, all that is required is some kind of reform to provide a response immediately. I think something in that direction is being done. In the making of the recent Eze Aro Coronation Kingdom, this recent current one, His Eminence, the current making of Eze Aro, I listened carefully. It's quite interesting to find there were three major different opinions that have shaped the public debate. Each of these groups that have different views try to drive home their points, their respective arguments in various forms and dimensions. And when I speak, you will definitely find which group that you belong to. The first strand of the argument is fairly those who say tradition or nothing. For those in this group in Aro, all they know is tradition, culture, nothing but culture. These groups believe that the making of Eze Aro was strictly followed according to how it was in the 18th century, even when we are in the 21st century. They also believe that the subject matter should be viewed from the prism of culture and tradition only, end of story. Their view certainly and surely depends on source knowledge from oral accounts passed from one generation to another. To ask them for documented evidence, they don't have. Besides, the group sense of archival information seems to be quite vast. The narration of of their experience hidden in prejudice, discretion, and myths. They narrate the story to suit their argument. The Aro in this group include traditionalists, some educated elites, many in the large, medium, and small-scale businesses, cave workers, and well dwellers. The age distribution of those who are only traditional and traditional in the making of Eze Aro, the age group varies. This group, for more indications, understands the importance of reforms. They will choose to appear resistant because of personal interest and allied prejudices. They may recognize or even have full understanding and knowledge of how and why our traditional institutions should align or adjust to unfolding dynamics of society, but choose to defend on the matter. For them, practical changes in society that includes expansion of roles of traditional rulers between culture and tradition to advancement in science, knowledge, technology, institution building, market forces, and role of the state and non-state actors, no matter how, does not matter to them because they have something to lose if changes happen. This group fell ignorance of the importance of volunteer leadership recruitment process. As critical success factors, they stand to protect the hidden agenda. The conflict or problem emanating from this position or school of thought can be better understood in a direct called the clash of civilizations and the making of a new world order. Written by a Harvard scholar and American political scientist, Samuel Huntington. In that book, Huntington made a point, and I quote, on January 3, 1992, a meeting of the Russian-American scholars took place in the auditorium of the government building in Moscow. 2 weeks later, the Soviet Union has ceased to exist and had become history, while the Russian Federation had become an independent country. As a result, the statue of Lenin, which previously graced the stage of the auditorium, had disappeared, and instead the flag of the Russian Federation was now displayed in front of the hall. And the only problem one American observed was while they were hanging the flag, they turned the flag upside down. After this was pointed out to the Russian hosts, they quickly and quietly corrected their error during the first intervention. A remarkable point which can be deduced from this apparent mistake from their book quote by Huntington is that years after the Cold War, witnessed the beginning of dramatic changes in people's culture, tradition, and identities. And the symbols of those identities began to turn upside down, just like the Russian flag, following the collapse of communism and the emergence of the bipolar world order. To this end, global politics began to change, to be refigured along cultural lines. Upside down flags were a sign of the transition from old order to reforms, opening the gate to new ways of thinking, new ideas, and new ways of doing things that move with the time, people and events, to respond to the changing dynamics of society. Another key message in Huntington's book is the fact that traditional and cultural identities, which at the broadest level were civilization identities, began to be used to shape patterns of economic development, socio-political systems beyond human comprehension. On this note, it's obvious that the Aro traditional institutions can no longer resist positive reforms that are not only required, necessary, important, and impactful, but make sense to attain progressive and developmental contributions. The second school of thought situates the making of Eze Aro in the 21st century beyond tradition. This group recognizes tradition, and they say it's just above tradition. There are other conditions. Those in this group are mainly Aro scholars, economic, social, and bureaucratic elites in the organized private sector, public service, top professionals, technocrats, students, and Aro School professionals abroad. They are leaders in their own rights, those in this group 2, with influence in Aro Kingdom. Majority of them fall within the ages of 50 and above. One striking feature of this group is their high level of education, experience, and good exposure in Aro culture and tradition, but in addition, public policy decision making. The group therefore believes that as the leader of our kingdom and custodian of our culture and tradition, the making of Eze Aro should be more than tradition. They apply prerequisite skills to include knowledge, global exposure, competence, integrity, finance, and sophistication that should be attached to their own throne. With cultural processes and elements are quite essential. They differ sharply in terms of content and application in the making of Eze Aro. For instance, why this group believes that the emergence of Eze Aro should be and continue to be the exclusive reserve of the royal family members. I repeat, this group strongly believes that the emergence of Eze Aro should be and continue to be an exclusive prerogative of Aro royals from the royal family. They find strongly that the era of laying claim to that throne by royal family members based on self-entitled mentality is gone. This group therefore advises the royals who would want to aspire to the Eze Aro too that the time has come for such aspiration to be considered as a big project, and therefore requires early preparation in life to actualize such aspiration. They were vocal in their advocacy that the throne now and in the future needs a leader who is ready and appropriately groomed to lead. This group further argues that the preparation should require, and among other things, deliberate and tailored quality education built on strong character, ethical and sound judgment. It also needs early exposure to acquisition of management skills and leadership training, and most importantly, visible means of livelihood. The argument here is that being an Aro royal is one major condition, no doubt. They should not be all about it. The group gave instances where high-ranking traditional rulers in Nigeria who command enormous respect and influence in society and in society can trace their background to quality preparation in life, quality education, and career growth. The invited Aros to understand that Sultan of Sokoto was a Nigerian military, where he rose to become a brigadier general equivalent to general in the army. The Oba of Benin was in Nigerian Foreign Service, where he rose through the ranks as a career diplomat to become an ambassador before he became Oba. Similarly, the Obi of Coronation was in the oil and gas industry, where he rose to become the director in Shell. The Pompon Jos was a career custom officer, rose through the ranks to become Controller General of Customs. The Oba of Lagos served in the Nigerian police and retired as Commissioner of Police. The Emir of Kano, the 14th Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, was a renowned banker and economist who served the banking and finance industry in very high positions, rising to the highest position of Governor of the Central Bank. To mention but a few. Aros in this group argue that the making of Eze Aro should please follow this pattern. The main argument of this group is that traditional institutions currently have become beyond culture and tradition. These institutions in Nigeria and elsewhere have become elements of community access to government, community access to power, community access to economic opportunities, investments, tourism, policy making, and a lot more. Even when it is usually seen as a non-political office in many quarters, traditional institutions with high-flying personalities open doors. There is a video that is circulating now. Of course, we know that the Asaba of Asaba have died. There are contenders to that role now. 3 of them are professors. We have Professor Azike, is one of the contenders to the throne. And when he was reading out his CV, is intimidating. And yet, there are many other professors that are vying. Is that the kind of people that will assemble in Nigeria, and we have an Eze Aro that is less qualified to go and attend the meeting? The role of government, the making of president, this same group further argue that believe that the Aro kingdom to meet this emerging trend, the making of Eze Aro in the 21st century cannot and will never settle for less. They further argue that the new information and technological innovation that currently shape the direction of human, social, and economic development and make the reforming of the Aro traditional institution inevitable. The role of government at all levels is another area that this group examines. They urge Aro to wake up to the reality that the role of government in making of traditional rulers, including the Eze Aro, is both constitutional, legal, valid, legitimate, and overarching. They also recognize the fact that local, state, and federal governments have enormous powers in the making of traditional rulers, and these powers are derived from the Constitution, and Aro should recognize that. The group therefore views as a major error of judgment for anyone to ignore or neglect the role of government institutions in making of a very influential tool like the making of Eze Aro. Government is there, a major stakeholder, giving strong linkage between conflict prevention, management, and resolution in one hand, the role of the state, security of life and property in the other hand, and specific role assigned to traditional rulers in their respective domains. The governor is the chief security officer of the state, and then for him to maintain security in the state, he has a say in who becomes traditional rulers in various statements. How he manages that is a matter of debate, and he certainly has a role to play, because there is staff of office. The same school, that's the second school, queried the rationale behind the conclusion in some quarters that the other state government in some form in the making of Eze Aro by issuing staff of office was an interference. It is not. It is most welcome and it's quite in order, and this group amen. Now the third school of thought is called the Aro on defense. This group is the Aro on defense is the third group. This group is fully aware of the making of Eze Aro. Nothing to offer, it appears, have something to offer, it appears excluded from the discussion and the process, probably because of their social status. Although they have some ideas, information and suggestions as regards decision-making process, especially who did what, where, why, how, they cannot contribute because they are far away from the table where discussions are made. So they research in their face, they seek out the face, whatever they decide they follow. This group therefore largely depends on secondary information from their leaders, from hearsay, via panel talks, health salute gossip, as well as social media. This group, which is essentially a majority, is commonly referred as the ordinary Aro individuals of defense. They cut across all ages, young and old, and include businessmen, uneducated, barely educated, traders, taxi drivers, keke drivers, okada riders, market men and women, artisans, village dwellers, food vendors, etc. This group depends on the opinion of their leaders to examine their role in the affairs of the kingdom. And by their large numbers, they are willing tools, easily mobilized for protests and demonstrations by the elite in canvassing their particular interests in the whole process. They are also major contenders, major fakers, and agitators of rumor mongering, fake news, disinformation, and propaganda because they have limited or no access to quality information. Notably, the positive contribution of this group in participating in the making of the Eze Aro is through cultural displays, masquerades, people, and more the making of the Eze Aro will be done and all is present if this group is not involved. This group is one major stakeholders in the process and unfortunately the most likely victims of poor leadership or any post-election process. We have the beneficiaries of good governance also accrued in this group. Therefore, in the making of Eze Aro, they are major stakeholders, and going forward, there must be a way to incorporate them into the process. In the midst of this known and unknown divergent views and the three schools that I mentioned, I'm inclined to agree with the position of the second group. Reforms, whether economic, social, institutional, represent compelling, timely response to dynamics of change. Order, please. In his book, New Meaning of Treason, Rebecca West argued that men must be capable of imagining and executing and insisting on certain change if they are to reform or even maintain civilization, and capable too of punishing the rebellion which is sometimes necessary if society is not to perish or give obedience. The point underlined here by the author is that the only way not to step on toes is to stand still. You don't want to step on toes to stand where you are. But if you want to make a change, there must be people that will protest. And we are managing them. When I look at the contribution of the Eze Aro Coronation, I think the second group has won. It's important to know that reforms don't seek reforms. It's important to know that reforms that seek to change how things are always attract resistance from those who profit from the tax system. As well as those who stand to gain, who stand to lose if things change. They will fight every tooth and nail to resist change. The losses can also be social, cultural, economic, or political, but the benefits to society are more. Therefore, the time for Eze Aro to seek ways, the time for Aro to seek ways and opportunities in the making of Eze Aro is now. Dr. Arochukwu, Orji, the sentiments. He presents the reform, the resources, the time, today, tomorrow, the future, and the new thinking that this lecture is openly canvassing. The potentials of using traditional institutions, including the Eze Aro as a tool and a platform to recreate Aro Kingdom by uniting its over 300 settlements across Nigeria as a current destination is enormous. The potentials are visible in our rich history and culture and our tradition. All this is missing if we don't have the right leadership, capacity and content awareness that we require to live. We find that in our current UK. Traditional institutions and tourism are closed. Traditional institutions of the British people is a revenue earner to the UK economy. We saw cattle from Moor House were the most popular royal estate locations in the United Kingdom in 2023. The site alone recorded 1.1 million paid visitors between 2022 and 2023. While the figure denoted the significant increase over the years, over the previous year, it remained below the number of admissions reported in 2019-2020, prior to the onset of COVID. MP Brand Finance, which prides itself as world-leading brand valuation consultancy, estimated that the lawyers contributed £1.77 billion. £1.77 billion to the UK economy in 2017 through a combination of Crown Estate revenues and indirect benefits for tourism, trade, media, and arts. Brand Finance also estimates that the monarchy's brand contributed £2.5 billion to the British economy during the same period. In Nigeria, as a result of strong leadership exposure, the Benin Kingdom has a well-educated Oba, knowledgeable the Oba of Benin, following coordinated strong global advocacy campaigns and missions and campaigns, missions and universities in Europe and America. Last year, returned looted Benin artifacts in their collection to Nigeria after over a century. Do you know how much those artifacts are worth? They are billions of dollars. Last year, the government and institutions of the United Kingdom and Germany transferred the ownership of about 121 Benin artifacts to Nigeria. Do you know the cost of each of these artifacts? Now I ask, where are the Arochukwu artifacts? If they don't buy, and we say no artifacts existed enough over all the investigation days, how do we locate them? Are they stolen? Were they stolen? Who is leading the advocacy and campaigns for the return of our artifacts? Robbery looted during our British War and many others. These are enormous cultural treasures that can become source of enormous revenue to our kingdom and the government if we are organized as tourist destinations. That can only happen to have a well-educated, exposed, and resource-free as we have now. Finally, points to note. Mr. Chairman, there are certain issues to note that came out strongly from this lecture, which I intend to highlight. One, the throne of the Eze Aro is highly revered, admired, respected, and celebrated by all our throne in the diaspora. And to sustain this elevated position, there is a need to deliberately support and work with the royal family to ensure that those who seek the throne prepare for leadership of the world. The second point, our own kingdom, our culture, tradition, and administrative organs must begin to open itself for reforms because change, knowledge, and digital age has come to stay. It's no longer a dream, no longer an idea, but a reality that has no boundaries and can no longer wait for anyone. Three, reforms do not mean losing what you have, but making the best that you have to last for you. Four, the role of government in the making of traditional institutions in Nigeria, Africa, and world over is only legal, constitutional, and legitimate, with many peculiarities in some societies, and the various case studies highlighted in the lecture have shown. Four, tradition, culture, and institutions of monarchy, similar to what we have in Arochukwu Kingdom, have since become instruments for investment, tourism, hospitality, entertainment, leisure, services, and Aro has all the potentials to explore this going forward. Finally, an elite consensus, and I repeat, an elite consensus is urgently required to review and interrogate through knowledge and evidence-based constructive engagement on key issues that have been raised in this lecture. Conclusion. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by stressing that we must acknowledge that the Eze Aro institution represents one of the highest symbols of identity for every proud Aro man or woman anywhere in the world. I am glad that we, the Aro, understand and appreciate this with the highest degree of consciousness and consensus. It's therefore important that we protect and guard it jealously. However, we must constantly devise strategies for ensuring that the institution continues to evolve to serve our common purpose and our common needs, continuously stabilize and accelerate development in our land and our people. In order to achieve this objective, we must jointly agree on the need for the institution to stay in tune with the dynamics of modern society, maximize inherent opportunities, and find a way to minimize our risks. It's time to push the boundaries of what is achievable within the Aro Kingdom. Together we can build the future of Aro that we earnestly need and desire for ourselves and for our children, future generations and for posterity. I therefore have no doubt in my mind that our new king, His Eminence Dr. Arochukwu Orji, represents a strong bridge between the past, the present, and our beacon of light. Thank you very much. This is a classic that's staying with me.
I can be a professor. I can be a professor.